Hello class. Today we're going to review solving multi-step equations. So let's first go through a series of steps that I need you to kind of review and to think about anytime you're given an equation. Steps to solve an equation. Step number one, put together anything that you can on each side of the equal sign. So if there's anything that can go together, like two numbers can go together, or there's two letters that are the same on the same side of the equal sign, go ahead and put those together. Okay. Step number two, get rid of the parentheses with distributive property. Now, 1 and 2 could go together. Okay, so you may have to distribute a number through the parentheses first before we can actually put everything together on each side of the equal sign. So just kind of remember that 1 and 2 here could be done either way. Right? Next, get your letters on one side by adding the opposite. Next, get your numbers on the other side by also adding the opposite. And then number 3, solve by doing the opposite. So let's see if we can do 1 or 2. And I apologize for that little pop-up there. Hit the wrong thing on the stylus. So let's see if we can do a few of these questions. Here's our first example. So you'll notice it looks a little different than some of the ones that we've been solving over the last few weeks. Okay, this one has some parentheses involved. So that means we must use the distributive property before we can do anything else, before we can simplify this. Okay, so I'm going to pass this 4 out to the J, and I'm going to pass the 4 out to the 7. So we pass them both out before we can get rid of those parentheses. So this says I've got 4 J's. So that means I'm going to have 4J minus, I'm going to pass the 4 out to the 7, which gives me 28. Now, one of the things you could do, okay, in this to get rid of that, like I've taught you, is to get rid of the minus, and then you end up with 4 times negative 7, which actually ends up being negative 28. And then we have equals 12. So the first thing that we do is we get rid of our parentheses with distributive property. Then we look, is there anything that I can put together? No. So now we think about our ultimate goal. You'll get the letters together on one side. They are. And get the numbers together on the other side. So since the letters are on the left, get the numbers on the right. And how do we do that? We do that by adding its opposite. Now here over the last week or two, a couple weeks actually, I've been showing you the shortcut method. So that's the method I'm going to use in solving this one. We know the more correct way, but you are now capable of using the shortcut method, and that's fine. Here I've got a plus negative 28, so I need to do a plus positive 28 to get rid of that. And if I add that on one side, I'm going to add that same thing on the other. Okay. So now the 4J comes down. Okay, the 28s go away, and we're left with just 12 plus 28, which is 40. Okay. So now our goal is to solve. So this one I have a multiply by 4. I don't want to know about 4Js. I only want to know about 1J. So I'm going to divide by 4, divide the 40 by 4, because what I do to one side, I must do to the other. And you end up with J is equal to 10 for our final answer. And that's what we're looking at today, multi-step equations. Okay, so that's what I want you to do on the next few as well. So take this second one here, pause the video just for a moment, and see if you can solve that one. Okay, so let's see how you did. All right, first thing we have to do is distribute with this 7 right here. We got to get rid of this set of parentheses. So I'm going to pass this 7 out to the 2p, and we'll pass the 7 out to the 3. So 7 2p's is going to give me 14p, plus 7 3's will give me 21. And then I have this minus 8 that's just kind of tagging along. And then I just write down everything that's left. Okay, so like I said early in the video, you may have to do step 1 and step 2, differently. It depends on what's there. So in this particular one, we had to distribute before we could actually combine like terms. Because you'll notice right here, this 21 and this minus 8, they can go together to simplify this. So we simplify that. So we end up with 14p plus, and now we have 21, take away 8, which gives us 13. Okay, and then equals 6p plus 29. So now we need to get our letters on one side and our numbers on the other. So I'm going to move this 6p over to be on this side. So I've got a plus 6p or a positive 6p, so I need a negative 6p to get rid of that. And I just put a negative 6p underneath this one. And then I simplify. So the 14p and negative 6p gives us 8p, because I'm going to subtract that, plus 13 equals, now my 6p's go away, and we're left with 29. So now I need to move the 13 over to be with the 29. So I'm going to do that by subtracting the 13 from both sides. And then you end up with 8p is equal to, and then 29 take away 13 gives us 16. So now how do I get rid of the multiply by 8? I do a divide by 8, do a divide by 8, and you end up with p is equal to 2 when it's all said and done. So that's the type of multi-step problem I'm referring to. Let's see if we can try one more, and then we'll be ready to apply this. So here's one with the distributive property on both sides. So pause the video for a moment and see if you can answer this problem. Okay, let's see how you did. So I'm now going to distribute the 2 to the 6x and the 1 to end up with 12x plus 2 is equal to, and then I'm going to pass the 4x or the 4 out to the x minus 5. Now we could go ahead and change that, and that will take care of the minus for us. So let's do that. So now 4x's gives you 4x. We need to remember that there is a 1 in front of that x. So it's really 4 times 1. Plus, and then 4 negative 5s gives me negative 20. And then I have a minus 2 that's tagging along, which is really a plus negative 2. Okay, now we combine anything that we can. So this negative 20 and the negative 2, we can put that together. So I end up with 12x plus 2 is equal to 4x plus negative 22. So now I need to get my letters on one side. So I'm going to move the 4x to be with the 12x by subtracting 4x from both sides. We end up with 8x plus 2 is equal to, those go away, negative 22. So now I need to move the 2 over to be with the negative 22. So I subtract 2 from both sides. That gives me 8x is equal to, now negative 22 and minus 2 or negative 2 gives me negative 24. Now we divide by 8 on both sides, and we end up with x equaling negative 3. And those are the kinds of questions that you're going to do on your assignment. Now we've got one more type of question that I need us to look at, because you're going to have 4 of these on your assignment. And it looks like this. It says find the dimensions of each rectangle. That will be your overlying instructions on these 4 questions. And it says the perimeter is given of this shape. It says the perimeter is equal to 122 meters. And what we have to find is, what is each dimension? What is the length and the width? Well, we know perimeter means, this perimeter right here means distance, distance, I can't even spell here. Hold on. Distance around. Okay, distance around the shape. Okay, so that means I'm going to take this W and I'm going to take this W plus 35, but I'm also going to take this W and this W plus 35, and all of that is going to equal 122. So that's what we're going to write. We're going to actually add the sides together. So we're going to do W plus 35 plus W plus 35, and all that's equal to 122. Now we go back to combining like terms. So I've got the W, the W, the W, and the W will give me 4W plus, and I've got 35 and 35, which gives us 70, which is all equal to 122. Now it looks just like one of the previous problems. So now my letters are already together, so I move my numbers to the other side by subtracting 70 from both sides. You end up with 4W is equal to, let's see, when we subtract this, we get 2 take away 0 is 2, 12 take away 7 is 5. Okay, so we get 4W is equal to 52. Well, I don't want to know about 4W, I want to know about 1W. So we divide by 4, and then W is equal to, well, see, 4 goes into 5 one time, okay, with 1 left over, and then 4 goes into 12 3 times. So I know W is equal to 13. Okay, so with that in mind, I now can answer my question. It says find the dimensions. So that tells me that this width is going to be equal to 13 meters, because that's just straight W. But My length is W plus 35. So I've got to take my W, which is 13, plug it in, and add 35 to that. So let's see, 30 and 10 make 40, plus 3 and 5 make 8. So that gives me 48 meters for my width. So that question is asking what are the dimensions. It is a 13 meter by 48 meter rectangle. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do a little assignment doing that same exact thing. So you will get out a sheet of notebook paper because the assignment is a small assignment. There is not enough room to do the work on paper or on my paper, so you're going to have to do it on notebook paper. And you're going to, over the next 2 days, the rest of today and tomorrow, you will answer these 15 questions plus 5 perimeter questions. Okay? So that's what I will expect you to do. So on each one of these questions, you will, one, on your notebook paper, write down the problem. Okay, so you will go to a sheet of notebook paper and you will write down the problem. 2 parentheses G minus 7. So number 1, 2 parentheses G minus 7 equals 16. Okay, and then vertically, you will then solve that problem. Okay, and then circle your final answer. You do not have to transfer your final answer to the paper. Okay, so I will expect to see all of this completed, okay, by tomorrow at the end of class, because tomorrow at the end of class, you will turn it in, finished or not. Okay, if you do happen to finish between now and then, which you will, okay, there will be a bonus activity that you will also do. It is a word search over geometric words. Okay, so on a separate sheet of paper, you will begin writing out the problem, and you will write each individual problem out, and then you will solve it. Circle your final answer. Like I said, at the end of tomorrow, by tomorrow, end of class, you will turn this in. Right? Everybody will turn one of these in before you leave Friday. And then pick up the bonus activity. The bonus activity is not due until next week. Okay, so until then, I'll see you later.